Oh boy, another
Oh
coast to
boy.
coast.
Yeah, I ain't been called a boy in a while. How you doing, buddy?
Doing good. We took a week off there. Oh, what happened?
Yeah.
We were like, we're gonna take some time.
It wasn't all intentional. I think it just happened.
Oh, but it don't hurt. We've pumped out 24 episodes already this season.
That's right. That's right. We've been humping it. Like we shattered season three's episode
Horrible.
number. Um
Oh my
yeah,
God.
so you gonna do the thing, buddy? You're better at it. And I got
Like,
something else after.
subscribe, comment, share stuff. Go down there and take a look around in our
Don't go
description
down
and
there. That's
everything.
bad. No, no, in the chat.
Yeah, don't go down
Married. Don't do
there.
that. Don't do that to me. Also, if you've been following our Let's Get Vocal, we also took about a week off from things Let's Get Vocal with guests and things like that, but we do have some coming up. So if you
Yep.
enjoyed that, don't worry, it's coming back. We just took a little time off. Okay. Also the competition, Perfectly Puzzled with main stage and affiliation with Rebel Sky Radio as well. That's also still going on. We're actually in the finals starting yesterday. And we do have a guest coming up. I'm not going to say who it is, but this particular person has won 2 weeks in a row. I'm excited about getting her on sometime this week. Be able to reveal that as well. So stay tuned for that.
Okay.
Brandon's not here tonight because he is
As you can see.
super overworked and he had to put his main job in front of this high paying hobby that we have.
He's taking a smaller pay to do that.
That's right. That's right. So we're gonna talk a little bit about
So beans, bullets, and bullets,
yeah,
and
we're
beans
gonna
and
talk about
bullets and band-aids and
the
things
bullets
like
and
that.
band-aids.
Yeah.
Do we
How is that, Nick?
he did not do that as well as he did the Outlaw Women one, I can tell you that.
Yeah,
But
Right.
kept forgetting the band-aid part. Beans and bullets and beans and bullets. Sounds like, what am
bean
I
bullets
missing?
and Scooby Doo bandages.
That was piss poor.
Do we want to pose that question that we were going to talk about a month or two ago when this kind of episode came back up?
Why not?
Which one is the most important of those three to you? We start with Mary, unless Mary wants to have time to think about it. So we can start it with that. So the question is, I think it'd be a good starting point. The question is, of the Beans, Bullets, and Band-Aids title, that pretty much encompasses everything you need in case you got a 72-hour situation, inclement, weather disaster area, whatever, civil unrest, whatever the case is, and you need to get out or whatever and take off. What is most important to you personally of the Beans, Bullets, and Band-Aids? And if you don't know what Beans, Bullets, and Band-Aids are, you need to go back and watch some of our episodes, okay? Because that's really sad.
Yeah.
Okay.
So are
Or
you
Google it.
asking me?
If you want time to think about it, Nick might have an answer already. Do you have an answer? I mean, I do kind of throw it at you, Mary. Catch me
Well,
off
I
guard.
have an answer, but it's
Oh, well, go
y'all aren't
then.
gonna
Look
like
at
it because
you,
it's a long
snappy, snappy.
answer.
No, please go. We have time.
I think it depends on where you're located. Do you have a fresh water source? Um,
In your
what's the
situation right now,
temperature? In
personally
my
for you,
situation right
yes,
now, personally,
yes.
it would be I don't want to say personally for me. For me, it would be Band-Aids.
Okay, so medical stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, most
Personally,
important.
for me,
That's your focus point, right? Is what you're
right,
saying. I would
because
focus on that.
that's what I'm lacking on. I have a fresh
Okay,
water source. I know I can build fire. I have the ability and some shelter already in place. So I'm not saying that's something that everybody needs to focus on first, or that
sure.
that's what I would focus on first in every survival scenario. But for me personally, Band-Aids is what I would focus on right now because that's what's more lacking for me.
And some people like you, it's obviously it's more than just band-aids. It's medical, it's prescriptions, it's treatments, it's things like that. That if everything stopped, you'd be in a bad spot, right? Yeah,
Well, I mean, it it could be. I've kind of been in a bad spot without having a
sure,
doctor,
yeah,
previously. So I've gone a few months, but
Was
hope
your
none of my
answer? Would your
doctors
answer
are
been
listening.
different? Would it have been different a couple months ago before you got in that bad spot, or would it be the same?
I had a pretty good I had a pretty good stockpile a few months ago. Yeah. So if I had the stockpile that I had in December of last year, my answer might have been a little different. Yeah.
Right. Right. What about you, Nick? Have you had time to think about it?
Well, yeah,
Last
actually,
2 months?
I answered it before. We
Well, for
actually
the
did answer it in
peoples.
so my opinion is bullets for me because I can protect myself and my family, and I can also gain the beans with the bullets because I can hunt food.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if I have the food, yeah, I'm eating, but if I have to protect my family, what am I going to do? Throw a bean at somebody? So I feel like
But
Depends on if it's a magic bean.
the bullets do the protection part, and it also can take care of the bean part.
I mean, unless it's
so
one of
I'm
those
gonna say
willow acorns.
before Ferris chimes in and makes me sound really stupid,
No, I
I'm
wouldn't do
gonna
that.
say that there's a caveat to each answer.
There's
Each
always
of those are tradable. You know, those are items that you can barter for
Yeah.
other items. So anybody could
they have
answer.
value in those
There's
situations.
right.
Yeah.
There's really not a wrong answer. So
Well,
all of the above. But
so I
go
have
ahead.
2 answers, but really only one. My original answer would have been whatever I am deficient in, like your logic, Mary, which is probably the beans. They're a fairly large family. It takes a lot to feed them, so it makes it more difficult to stockpile food storage and things like that. So my actual answer though is bullets. I think Nick is correct, and I want to maybe jump on a limb and correct you, not really correct you, but speak a little further to that. You're not talking about robbing people. You're talking about, you know, like putting your service out there or hunting, you know, maybe
Right.
protecting others because you have the means to do so, things like that. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at too. In my age, as I get older, that may change. My dad is late 70s. He's probably more like Mary at this point as far as the band-aids, because he is older and he is starting to have health issues and things like that, and it is deficient on his supplies and access if something like that would happen. You know, he's got everything else. He's been doing it for years. So I would have to say bullets at this age that I am right now, because I can work still. I can put myself out there to hunt and gather, that kind of thing. And that's not just bullets and guns. That's also bow and arrow, anything you would use to hunt, fish, you know, gather.
Grenades,
It's
bazookas.
Well, yeah, we don't go that far. We get borrowed for that shit. Molotov cocktails. No,
When's the last time you heard somebody talk about a bazooka
bazooka. It's been a long time since I've talked about a bazooka.
or
I don't even
Uzis?
think
Back in the
they don't even
80s, it was
use
all
that
about the
anymore.
Uzis back then.
Yeah.
Nowadays, when people say bazooka, I think about bubblegum.
So speaking of bullets and beans, bullets and band-aids, those are broad, right? But I have a list here. I actually developed a list a long time ago with some other people, and it was pretty in depth, pretty lengthy, but I can't seem to find it. So I know I have it somewhere. It's probably on a flash drive among 50 that I have. But I was able to find one online. So it's not necessarily mine, but it's just a generic multi-use survival items. And so just before we get this list, Mary, what's one you could think of that would be a multi-use item that you couldn't really live without because it is multi-use?
A knife.
A knife. Okay.
Mm.
What about you, Nick? Cannot be knife.
Cannot be knife.
Cannot be a knife. She already used that one.
Like tripwire or string, real strong string.
Hey, okay. Yeah. And it doesn't really matter how much, as long as it's sufficient, because it's reusable, right? And that's the other key thing to this stuff, reusable. Couple of reasons for that. Obviously, you want to be able to use it over and over again, you know, but you also don't want to leave a lot of things behind. You know, you
Right.
want you want to keep. And when I was raised in Boy Scouts, one of the first things they taught us is being good stewards of the environment. Pick up after yourself. Don't leave it how you found it. That kind of thing. When you're camping, hiking, adventure, whatever. And that always stuck with me. It does help with keep the litter down, and then people don't know where you've been. Maybe you don't want that to happen. You don't want people to know where you've been. So being able to reuse an item and keep it with you is better than just discarding it. Because at some point it was a waste of space and weight on your person, and then you discarded it. So it was just a waste. Maybe use it a couple times or whatever. But getting into the list, I want to talk about some, if not all, these.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious about this list because there's a lot of things that people don't realize it's something that would be good to have.
A lot of these are going to be
Simple
like
little things.
Yeah, a lot of these are going to be like, oh, that makes sense, and some will be like, oh, I never thought about that, and that's the whole point. So the first one is a survival hatchet, and when I say that, usually these hatchets, you've probably seen them. They have several different things about them that makes it beyond just a hatchet. They may have some type of I forget what it's called, but multi-use wrench built into the head of it. And they may have something in the handle, just multi-use, like the old knives used to be, the military knives. You had a compass, you had a matchbox in there in the handle, that kind of thing. Not just a regular hatchet, but one that is versatile, that has other different amenities about it, kind of like a Swiss Army hatchet, I guess, if you will. That one makes sense to me. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense to me. Obviously, it's used for the uses of it is self-explanatory, but it's also a pry tool, a shovel, a wrench. It should be heavy duty, should be comfortable. I know that I bought one for me and my stepson. I think last Christmas we both got it. I got it myself too because I liked it. But the handle on it it's basically flat with paracord on it.
I got one.
It was a good deal. It's uncomfortable to me. I'd rather have a round handle, but it works. It makes, it's small, it's compact, it's good for camping, things like that. But long term, I think I'd want a round handle that's a more comfortable to hold. But that's personal preference. Survival whistle. I don't really know how. I mean, I guess the use is versatile in it, what you can use it for. Attacks on one person or a group, or notification of location, or you're lost. You know what I mean? I mean, there's several ways that you can use a whistle, but it's just good to have. You may never need it. You may never want to use it. I don't know. Multi-tool, like a Gerber, or I forget what the other one's called. It's pretty popular. That kind of goes without saying. There's all kinds
handy
of stuff
dandy fence tool.
Yeah, there you go. It's definitely, that should, to me, I think that should be, aside from the knife, like Mary mentioned, that should probably be your first purchase. If you don't have anything, like you've never been camping or hiking or nothing, get a multi-tool. And it's basically pliers, and it's got different size knives in there, and corkscrew and can opener, and Swiss Army type situation.
Yeah.
Tarp. Now, why would a tarp be needed?
Several reasons.
What are those?
Well, one, if you're on the go and weather is coming and you need just something quick to get under.
True. So shelter.
You could also use it. Well, you can use it for multiple things, but if you don't have a freshwater source and you have a clean tarp, you can use it to collect rainwater.
Yep. Even if the tarp's not clean, you can still sanitize the water later.
Yeah, bullet.
Yep. How about medical use? Stretcher.
Yeah.
How about even smaller medical use, for maybe not bandages, but tourniquets, things like that. I mean, it's a tarp. It could be cut smaller. I mean, obviously you wouldn't want to do that, but it is a use. You don't have anything else. There's a lot of different things that you can use a tarp for. Plastic bags.
Those are good for the. No, I'm not going to go there.
Nick's gonna put one in a 5-gallon bucket.
Well, I mean, obviously
you
you can store things in them. They're compact, and I'm thinking like You could probably go with trash bags, but I was thinking like Walmart bags, that
Yeah.
kind of thing. Obviously trash bags too. We transport water in them, organize things like food, store food, keep garments dry, clothes, shoes, whatever. We made early on, we learned that keeping your clothes dry is key when you're going to go camping or hiking. And we made it's always a religious thing that we wrapped everything that we didn't want to get wet inside of a backpack, inside of a plastic bag. That's just, how you do it.
You know what else those bags are good for? And you're going to think it's funny. We used to do it as kids during the winter with frickin' bread bags. Because
Yep.
if you don't have waterproof shoes and you're on the go and it's wet, you can put them on your feet and then put them in your shoes so that your feet
Oh,
don't
yeah.
get
I don't
wet,
think
'cause
that's
you
funny.
wanna
I've had to do that. I've had to
keep
do
your
that.
feet dry.
Absolutely.
Duct tape. Sorry.
That was actually the one after this one. The next one is actually survival knife. And that's a step above a regular pocket knife or a knife. I mean, it's got all kinds of stuff in it. All right, that's it's got different tools in the blade and all that stuff too. But and I wouldn't say these are elaborate things. They're just suggestions that have extra things to them that make them multi-use. Right, a knife already is multi-use, but why not buy one that's got different things that come with it that you're going to use or could use? Duct tape. There's a lot of reasons to use duct tape now. Forget about in an unrest situation or a bug out or whatever. Every household needs duct tape. Every vehicle needs duct tape.
Yeah, because
And
if you're
if you
trying to
don't have
hide from
waterproof
people,
shoes, you're going to want to duct tape those
yeah,
grocery bags around your shoes.
I never thought about it, but duct tape is actually a really good moleskin for inside your shoe to prevent blisters. I never used it for that, but that's actually a really good idea.
it's also good for if your shoes come apart, you can tape it back together for a
Oh
little
yeah,
while.
definitely. And then put a plastic bag around it so they don't get wet.
And then if you're trying to be quiet and not get caught because maybe there's a war going on, it's good for duct taping mouths of people that you can't keep
That's
caught.
right. I can think of a few people that would need that. Bandana. Obviously, what's some uses for a bandana?
Diaper.
Why would you go straight to the butt with the bandana? Wow. It's true.
Do you ever feel sorry for Lynn, though?
Yeah, she's got to find an oversized bandana to fit that mug. Look at him. Might as well just use a pillowcase. Be done with it. I mean, things like keeping your wetting down, keeping your neck cool. That's more of a medical type deal, a prevention, I guess. Protect from the sun, a bandage, splint, rope. I mean, you could use it as rope. It could be turned into some type of tie down, something like that, if you really needed to. I mean, it'd be a one-use thing and not a multi-use at that point. You'd have to cut it up or whatever. But I mean, the strength of this thing is probably going to be tested in that scenario. But it's possible you can use it that way.
You know what it made me think of that you used to see? I guess they did it way back then, and you see it in cartoons and stuff. Is where how they used to carry their stuff was wrap up all their stuff in something like that and tie it to a stick and carry it.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of cartoons that had that on there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I'm getting out of here. I think that was more of a hobo look.
Yeah.
The traveler on foot. Paracord. I don't know
Paracord
I
shoes,
know
you can use
y'all are
that for
familiar with
frickin'
that.
anything.
Oh yeah, but if you're not familiar with it, it's I don't even know how to describe it. It's a widely used military cord rope, if you will, that's tightly woven, and I don't know what it's made out of. Maybe polyester mixed with nylon or something, but it's really strong and it's really durable. I have a bunch of it.
Use it for rock climbing and all different things.
Yep. And I think there's different gauges of it,
there is.
What I would suggest is just the normal, the smallest gauge they've got. I don't know what it's called, the thickness of it. Because you could double that up, and I'd have at least, weight-wise, I'd probably have at least 100 feet of it. At least.
I've probably got 50 yards of twine in my garage, too.
Twine? You're talking about the furry-looking twine.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
stuff that I actually bought it years ago to use to put a bottom onto a chair that was a bottomless chair. You know, like the old
Like a toilet.
hardback. No.
What do they call it? Like how they do the caning in the chairs normally.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. So my mom and I
Hmm.
put a bottom into a chair that didn't have a bottom, but I've got extra twine and it comes in handy. You
Fishing
can use
line's
it
a
for
good thing to
braiding
have.
and
Yep.
yes.
That's probably on here too. Just hadn't got there yet. But for the paracord, to create a shelter, ascend or descend inclines, rock climbing, that kind of thing. Hang garments, fasten a splint, make a snare. There's all kinds of things you can use with it. I mean, you could do
Tie
it.
the enemy to a tree.
Yeah, there you go. Speaking of
The
that,
enemy.
sanitary pads or tampons
Tampons are good for like bullet wounds and stuff.
and
the
bloody
bleeding.
noses.
Bloody noses. Yep.
Yeah.
Man, but could you imagine that? 'Cause if your nose is bleeding enough, that thing's gonna swell up and you gotta try to get it back out.
And if you use the duct tape in conjunction with it, you put the tampon in the mouth first, then duct tape over the mouth, and it thing swells up, and they'd have no chance of even making a mumble.
Nope.
Color
Bandage
crazy.
shredded or used as tinder. Never thought about that, but it is cotton. I mean,
Yeah.
for the most part.
Okay.
Filtered silt water.
I have a question. I know we're trying to get through this list, but I have watched so many like surviving things, and people are literally fighting hypothermia because they can't find dry tinder to start a fire. Nick, you have a very long beard.
Yeah.
And you have hair on your head, right?
No.
Well, some. I have hair on my head. Like, why aren't people more resourceful?
I think I've never thought about that, but I know what happens when hair is singed.
It burns
And
really
I don't
quickly.
think it would burn long enough to actually catch your next set of tinder size on fire. You know what I mean? I could be wrong, but it's a good question. Nick, we need to try that out like right now. Can you just cut some of your beard off, and I just want to see if it'd start. Okay, never mind. There you
Yep.
go, Mary. We'll never know.
I already know. But
I mean, belly button lint, that's a thing, you know.
Again with the belly button lint.
Yeah. Any kind of lint is a great fire starter. I've already told you my story. I keep that in bags. Everything I've got a whole Ziploc bag full of it, the camping gear, and I use it too. So, I mean, just saying, it's free. Well, not free, but you got to own a dryer to select it, I guess. But, a stove, those little small camp stoves, the single burner stoves. They're tight, compact. They're just good to have. I mean, you'll want to have hot food. You're not going to want to eat, raw sushi out of the lake every time. You know what I mean? You'll want to cook it. And in fact, it's a necessity to be able to cook it. If you can't, like we were talking about, start a fire, you want to have that at least as a backup so you can boil water, sanitize water, things like that. Just a good thing to have. It's more of a bonus thing. You can get by without it, but
yeah, I'd say that's an
try it.
advanced survival tool.
Right. And those are just some things just kind of get your brain going. Fishing line is multi-use. Medicine bottles can come in useful. You keep about 4 or 5 of them with you. I mean, they hold documents. And most of them are watertight.
Yeah. Good idea.
That's what some people don't think about. That you want to have certain documents with you, just for whatever reason. You could use your imagination of why it would come in handy to have your birth certificate or even driver's license or whatever. Especially in a situation where it's a natural disaster, that's a big deal. You want to be able to identify yourself, and that way they can keep up with you. Your family's calling to find out. Do what?
I said, or do you?
Well, I mean, like I said, it depends. But in a natural disaster, like a tornado, hurricane, things like that, I've experienced that stuff, not firsthand, but the aftermath, helping clean up. And the confusion with people not knowing who they are. Everything's left in their home, and you have to go off their word who they are, where they come from. And then you got the issue of families finding families. I mean, it's chaos. So it's good to have that in your kit, in your 72-hour kit, just a way to put your documents in something. And I would used to say like a photo, like a film case or whatever, but they don't have those anymore. I mean, you can't find those anymore. So a medicine bottle is like a prescription bottle is the best next thing. That's next best thing in my mind. And usually those are all over the house, right?
Also good work as a bobber for fishing.
That is true. I was going to say that, actually. That's really neat that you mentioned that, because I've seen that actually on TikTok. Somebody use it. They super glued the top to it, but it worked. I mean, it's already, most of them are orange and you can see them in the water. It's really neat that you mentioned that. I thought about doing it myself. Anyway, just some things to think about. We probably need to take a commercial break, huh?
Yeah, we're going to take a commercial break real quick.
Awesome.
Farris, beans, bullets, and Band-Aids.
Beans, bullets, and Band-Aids. That's it. Welcome back. I have to admit something. I have not bought anything from that line yet.
Because you already own it?
Yeah. I want to. I need to. I will.
Well, let's talk about that.
Let's talk about that.
Let's talk about the things that people already have in their households that they can use instead of going out and buying those items. And we mentioned a lot of those already.
That's right.
Diapers.
See, diapers take up a lot of space. I think bandanas would be better. Hell, I would have no shame in my little toddler running around with a Walmart bag on their butt. Honestly. And that
I don't have a toddler, so I don't have to worry about it.
Well, I don't really either, but you know my situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, get creative. Like Mary said, look in your house and say, hey, that I can't live without. That I can't live without. That would come in handy. And then when you got a whole dining room full of junk, start whittling it down. Things you really can't live without. That's what you have to do.
Hey, you know what I just thought about? And this is kind of funny. But that green screen would come in pretty handy.
It would.
It could.
Good camouflage.
I got so many extras. You know, it's not a bad idea. Is to go ahead and pre-cut up width lengths of fabric strips.
Yep.
So they can be tourniquets or anything.
Oh, yeah.
You can even wrap them on sticks to make torches if you really had to. But that way you're not, like if something really happened, you're not having to rip up your clothes you're trying to wear. You have stuff, you already have some fabric just ready to go. Strips of fabric, a bunch of them can wad up to be a little bit of nothing of space.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
Well, and I don't know if you guys ever did any of this before or not, but my husband's mom made a blanket out of bandanas.
I've seen that, yeah. I'm not very good at making stuff like that, but I've seen it done.
So maybe a sewing kit, just a simple couple of needles and some thread.
Oh, definitely a tiny sewing kit. That's not a horrible idea.
That wouldn't be bad.
So I want to say, I have to mention this. There's a lot of anti-survivalist. So there's a thin line between survivalist and a prepper. Okay, a prepper actually, to me, started out those people that wanted to be ready for anything that could happen, like a natural disaster or a shortage in something or whatever. And you have some things for a set amount of days to get you through that, whether it's 72 hours or 2 weeks or even a year. A survivalist is the next step from that. It's like you're looking beyond that end of time frame that you're prepared for. Like you're looking at forever. Okay, you're looking at if this never changes back, can I
I got to
make
be able
it?
to keep going. Yeah.
I want to make that clear. And a lot of times, in my experience, what I've seen in the media is when you go from being prepared, like the government puts out tips and things about being prepared, having a 72-hour kit and keeping your identifications on you. You know what I mean? They give you ideas to do that. They encourage that. But beyond that, the media gets wind of it and it's like all of a sudden you're an extremist or you're a tinfoil wearing person, right? On your hit, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And that's not the case. Okay. What is wrong with going beyond that time frame that you prepare for and saying, okay, if this is extended, I need to know how to survive. Good example, reality. I don't know how many there are in the country, but I'm sure it's a pretty good number. There are a lot of people who probably never thought they'd be homeless. Okay. But if they have the skills and to be able to put into place, you know, they're in their new situation, not having a home, a job, and all that, for whatever reason, they can survive. And they do every day with way less than we ever thought we could, you know, we could do it with. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So don't let, and this is me addressing the audience, but don't let media or people that put down your ideas or you fears. Okay, we're talking about fears here, and try to quell your fears. Oh, that's never going to happen. 5 years ago, would you, Nick, have thought that we would ever be faced with what we're faced with now?
No.
Because I heard a lot of people 5 years ago, oh, that's never going to happen in my lifetime. The fear mongering stuff, you know, just fill in the blank. I'm not going to give a scenario.
I don't know if I could say necessarily I wouldn't think it would happen, but you just weren't thinking about it. There was nothing.
It wasn't prevalent. It wasn't like right there,
right,
like it is now. And we could cite so many different reasons or situations that we're seeing now that could spark something like that. It's not just one thing anymore. It's Cuban Missile Crisis. Okay, that got a lot of people, you know, fearful back in the day, and they started doing stuff like this, started thinking of the worst and just be prepared. That kind of died down. Everybody kind of went back to life, and the next thing came up, and the next thing, and the next thing. So it's these cycles that everybody starts to think, okay, well, so it looks like the society is crying wolf. Okay, every time we do this, Y2K, we prepare, and then nothing happens. So what's the point? I mean, well, there's that one time that it will happen and it will last for a long time and you're not prepared.
And then the people like us that are prepared are having the last laugh that you may find.
Right.
The problem is this country's gotten with materialistic things and stuff being right there right now. It's a pampered country, man. Everything's right there at their hands.
I'm glad you said something about that because I was going to ask. I know, Farris, for you, you kind of grew up in a home, as did I, where
no doghouse,
whatever,
chicken coop.
Your parents kind of prepared you at a young age.
They tried, but yes,
yeah, and so did mine to some degree. We learned how to farm. We learned how to, you know, take care of animals. How to, you know, more specifically, animals, gardening. You know, we knew how to feed the chickens, gather the eggs, you know, live off the land as much as we could, and then preserve what we learned. But how much of this are we passing down to the next generation? Because even if it doesn't happen where we need to be prepared, we also need to pass this down to our children so they can pass it down to their children.
I think the problem is that every generation we come to are less and less interested.
Yes. The interest is falling off because we hadn't put it in front of their face constantly, like my parents did me.
In the way, like I said, everybody's so pampered, everything's right there. They're like, oh, la-di-da-di-da.
Yeah.
I'm not interested in that.
Well, I'm interested in my children surviving if something should happen. So
making them do it is
we as a society lost a huge resource in the Boy Scouts about 8 years ago, maybe a decade now, when, and I'm not going to get into why, but there was a pivotal moment in that organization that changed the outlook, or not outlook, the perception of that organization. And we knew when it was coming down the pipeline that it was going to change the framework of that, of the BSA. And it went from the participation. Let give you an example. I worked 3 years in a row at a Boy Scout summer camp, and all 3 years when I was there, I'm almost 42. So this is when I was like 15, 16, 17. Okay. So it was a couple decades ago. And back then we had six or 8 weeks, depending on the year, just depending on how many people signed up, full of, what was it, A through J campsites. So whatever number that is, 12 campsites, whatever it is, 6 to 8 weeks full. And we're talking a troop in each campsite. That's anywhere from 4 to 16 boys. Okay. So it was pretty busy during the summer. Lots of participation in that back then, in the 90s and the 2000s. Now it's like 3 weeks and campsites are half full. That might be worse than that. That was a couple years ago. I don't know what it is now. So the interest has dropped dramatically in a decade. I mean, and it's unfortunate. So that source of a whole generation, for that generation, the whole source is gone in the BSA.
Yeah.
Even Girl Scouts are the same way. They merged the two, basically. Not really. They didn't really merge the two, but Boy Scouts have let in the Girl Scouts, which I actually supported. I actually think that's good. I thought that was a good thing, but some people else didn't and all that. But there's a lot of I'm gonna get down a rabbit hole. I want to, but just to wrap this up, there's a lot of angst against that decision, and that, among others, have caused it to go away. So it's a matter of parents keeping that going. And Nick, you're absolutely right. It's just not going anymore. And that was like the last stronghold of information and teaching that we had for adolescents to learn certain skills that group taught as a basis. I mean, there's a whole, if you've never been in Boy Scouts, it's a whole handbook that you go by to reach certain levels in Boy Scouts and achievements and earn your way through this process. It's been stated that if you reach Eagle Scout, it's like having a college degree.
Yeah,
and you started from 12 to 18. I mean, it's gone, and for the most part, it's gone. You know,
if they started having like video games and stuff like that at the Boy Scouts, they'd go.
Oh yeah. Well, the thing is, I believe there's actually video game merit badge. You know, so it's there to do. It's just they don't. And I'm not saying that's all they want to do, but let's face it. There's a lot of kids these days that's all they want to do, male and female. You know, I was shocked a couple years ago that I learned that my 2 daughters love playing Modern Warfare and all these other games. Like, really? I'm like, okay.
Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah, and they don't play it like all the time. Like,
well, playing the video games is fine as long as you don't let it rule your world, and that's all you care about.
Exactly. Yeah.
Go out in society.
That's right. So to segue into that from the Boy Scouts teaching to this other part of this, I'm gonna try to get through it real quick, but I just want to hit the hot points. Me and my dad years ago, we kind of wrote this thing up, trying to take Boy Scouts and his RV training and all that and put it into just a quick little summary. It's several pages long, but I'm not going to read it all. I'm just going to read the hot points, like I said. And what other things you need to know or think about other than just the things in your bug out bag or city trailer kit or vehicle you're going to be, whatever you're going to grab, your totes or full on luggage or however you plan on doing it. Most of these things are like preparing you before that happens. These are things you need to know or practice or learn before all that. It's not just about buying the things or gathering things in your home or whatever, making a list of things to grab, you have to know how to use the stuff. You have to have your mindset right. Okay. And that's what this is talking about. And this is in no particular order as far as most important to least important. It's just random. But number one, be fit, be healthy, take care of yourself. If you don't have the strength, speed, endurance, flexibility, agility, things like that, you're not going to be able. It's one of the things that you won't have in your arsenal to survive, and you kind of have to have that. I hate to say that there's a lot of people in this country that are not fit, including myself. I'm out of shape 2 years removed because I'm happy and married. Okay, I admit that it's not her fault; it's my fault. Okay, but it is. You need to be fit. You need to have some level of fitness so that you can use your imagination.
Gather firewood. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna go out on a limb, be kind of funny here, but what if the zombie apocalypse actually happens?
You got to get away from them.
You can't run from no fool. Okay. You trying to find a car to get away, right?
You know what, Farris? I don't have to outrun the bear. I just have to outrun you.
Oh, the bear is not outrunning me. I'm fastest boy. Okay. Next one. Okay. Strength. All right. And this is not just physical fit. It's mental strength, right? It does talk about physical fitness, but I thought about it. It's also mental strength, right? You have to be able to prioritize, stay calm, blah, 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 whatever, in situations. You have to understand that life as you know it is either temporarily or permanently different, and it's out of your control, and you have to figure out a way to get that control back and make the right decisions based on your mental strength, right? As I said, it gives all kinds of stuff that you can do to be physically strong, but I'm not going to get into that. Find your own P90X or whatever program. We're not here for that. I'm going to skip speed and endurance. Diet. Diet's a big part of it. Get used to eat what you store. If you're going to do food storage, rotate it, eat what you store on a regular basis. I can tell you my parents do that religiously.
Yep.
She will can, she will, all this stuff, and they will eat that for dinner. In fact, they hardly ever go to the grocery store because they have their own stuff that they rotate.
I was talking about that with Lynn. She was doing her thing to lose weight, and I'm like, we should get to where you don't eat as much, because if something happens, you want your food supply to last. So you don't want to go into something like this being used to just having 3 plates of frickin' dinner. So people, you might want to get used to, you don't have to eat 8 meals in 1 hour.
Yep. We have 5 acres of land, and 3.5 of that is barren. Okay. It's not barren, but it's like just woods and brush and all that, right? We're not taking advantage of that. Somebody like you, Nick, that's got a smaller lot, you could still have a garden along the side of your fence to provide for just you and Linda, for example.
Yeah.
Easily.
Oh, 3 tomato plants will
give you plenty of tomatoes.
Yeah.
Well, not just that, you could have a dozen different yielded produce, whatever it is, every season, every year, and be canning that stuff and be eating. You know what I'm saying? You cut down on your grocery bill. You'd cut down on your weight because it's healthy. It's stuff you grew in your yard. There's no third party, fourth party additives to it. It's all out of your garden, and that's a big benefit. And I'm hypocritical because, like I said, I don't have one myself. I want one. It's just a lot going on. So there again, like I said, I am beans deficient, but that's okay. But if I can get a way to work for that after the fact, I'd be fine with that. Educate yourself. And I mean every little piece of understanding of things that you can absorb when it comes to how politics work, to the country itself, to skills, right? Basic skills. Just educate yourself. There's a lot out there that you can get familiar with, and of course the next thing is acquire skills. The best way but also maybe the most difficult way of doing this is find like-minded people in your neighborhood. Learn what their profession is. Learn what their hobbies are. Get to know your neighbors. Me and Nick have talked about this on a bartering system conversation.
Mhm.
Get to know your neighbors so that if you've got 2 doors down, you've got a nurse that works there. And then 2 doors down the other way, you've got maybe I don't know, taxidermist. I don't know. You've got all these people around you that do different jobs, have different skill sets. And if they understand the way you do and think the way you do, they are assets. They are people that have skills that you can call upon in these situations. Make sense? Some of those skills are shooting, knife sharpening, swimming, climbing, fire making, first aid, shelter building, land navigation. I'm reading off the sheet, obviously. Knot tying, radio use and etiquette, proper care of storage and gear and consumables, blah, 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 blah. These are simple skills that you can learn in conjunction with the professional skills that may be around you. You know, I would think a doctor in the neighborhood would be very valuable, right? Obviously. Somebody with military experience, very valuable.
Speaking of that, you're going to want to try to have, obviously you can't carry encyclopedias, but some type of survival pamphlets, maybe medical pamphlets, something that gives you a basic rundown of like plants that are good for food or medical, because something happens and your phone goes down, you ain't Googling it.
Yeah, notice, good point. Notice we haven't said laptop, phones, TVs.
No.
There's a reason for that. You can't always guarantee you can have a power source to keep those charged, much less have any kind of internet source to provide information. So having a book or, I don't know, cue card, little index cards in your backpack or box or whatever vehicle. I mean, I don't know, however you want to do it, whatever makes sense to you to reduce space and weight, space use and weight, then do it. I sent you a picture of several manuals that I have.
Yeah.
That I've just collected over the years, and I've read all of them. Does it all stick? No, it's a lot of information. But back when we first started the podcast, and Mary, we asked you, which one would you do it? You have to cater that reasoning to yourself. There's no wrong answer there, by the way. With the, it depends on you. Same thing with manuals. Read them, absorb what makes sense to you and how it affects you and yours, and you'll be fine. You don't have to memorize the whole thing. You don't have to really even carry all of them with you. Pick your favorite one or two to keep that you didn't really absorb well, so you'll know it down the road. You'll have it right there. It's a resource. For me, it'd be probably gardening. Take that with me. That way I know I can go back to it. Okay. The Farmer's Almanac.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a good last purchase. If you never purchase one ever again, at least get one, have it, just a suggestion. I'm not saying it totally makes sense, but educate yourself, acquire the skills, understand your neighbors.
Yeah.
Yep. Maintaining appearance and demeanor. This one is more or less being a good citizen, being professional. Don't draw attention to yourself by, like, some of these, I call them wannabe American nationalists, right? They get pulled over, they cause problems, they want to spit out a bunch of law and things like that, and cause a situation to turn into a bad one just because they don't want to cooperate.
Right.
That's a good example of maintaining appearance and demeanor. Be the person you were before shit hit the fan, basically. I mean, it doesn't mean...
Or don't. You don't know what kind of person they were.
Well, you have to, like I said, that goes back to educating yourself. All right? Read certain books. The Art of War is one of them. There's a lot of good books came out of World War II when dealing with invasions. All right.
I'm just saying, like, I wouldn't suggest Linda's cousin to be who he is.
Oh, well, there's always going to be somebody after what you got.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So, but you remaining who you are or were before whatever happens, even if it's just a hurricane situation and you're out for a week. All right. You're in a bad spot. You were dealt a bad hand. There are other people that probably aren't suffering like you, or a lot more people that aren't suffering like you. They're there to help. Be professional about it. Be courteous about it. Be human about it. That's what this
Right.
is saying. You should know certain things that more than likely would end up being like, for example, this is kind of out there, but no police code, no military lingo, no. These are things you want to learn so that you can understand what's going on around you.
Mhm.
And it may be very valuable for you or your group or whatever to know these things. And you can make better decisions based on the knowledge that you attained before this happened. Make sense?
Have a battery powered radio on you. So little, or even don't they have little radios where you can crank them and it creates the juice? That way you don't ever have to try to keep a power
Yeah.
source.
Those are like NOAA radios with a hand crank.
Yeah.
And we have one at work.
The flashlights where you can, well, it's not a motion I probably should do on screen, but you know what I'm saying. The flashlights.
You were rolling the dice. We know what you're doing. It's okay.
There's flashlights.
You're
You
just rolling
shake
the
them
dice.
and it charges them up.
Here, blow on these. Wow, Nick. Ban. Okay. I think that's about it. It just kind of gets into the land navigation. That's a big.
That's important if you're traveling.
Yep. Especially by foot. I mean, yes, it happens as well. Because look, I've gotten so spoiled using my Apple Map app. I call it the Map app, navigation app.
Which brings another thing: have paper maps in case you have to.
Oh my God, yeah, and good luck finding them. I mean, I'm sure they're in like tourism buildings and things like that, but you can order them on Amazon. It's funny because we mentioned the Rand McNally, which is the big truckers map book that's got every state in it, right? That thing is wonderful to have, okay, but it's massive. Okay. I mean, I think that your plan, whatever that is, should include multiple maps to get you there. If it's to go from Nick, if you're going to end up bunking up with Brandon over in California, you should have a state map that every map you're going to go through. Fold it up, okay, and that's just reality. You may want to get a Rand McNally and shove it under the truck seat or whatever if that's your way to go. But are you willing to take that out if you lose your vehicle and take it with you? Maybe
always had,
it's important.
Like, the Atlas book too, which is several maps in it.
That's the Rand McNally.
Yeah,
it's the same thing. It's just two different. Atlas is one, I think. Rand McNally is another brand of map book, but that's what we had. My dad always
had those, but I don't know where to come to think of it.
My dad would buy one every couple of years, and they were like $40.
Actually, you can. You know where you can get maps, paper maps? Usually at gas stations.
Rest areas.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's places you can get them, but they don't keep they don't keep them on hand like they used to.
No,
there may be 3 or 4 for that area, state or region or whatever. Most of the time they're states, I guess, state maps.
And a lot of times those maps are only going to show you how far you have to go to get to, if you know how to use a map. They're only going to show you how far you have to go to get to where you're going. They're not going to show you elevation and that kind of stuff.
No, but if you know how to look for, and I forget what they're called, and that's a shame because I am a drone pilot, but the maps they use for aeronautics, those actually are pretty dang detailed. I mean, they have to be. They show elevation, they show towers, they show everything that affects a pilot is on there. I mean, seriously, and those you can attain those from online actually. If you want a certain area, just get it, print it, you're done.
Yeah.
You know, if you have the capability of doing it, or you can order it or whatever. But so there are ways to have to fight lack of knowledge of land navigation. You can learn that using a compass, things like that. You know, I always had a hard time with what's called orienteering. With it, my brain never really wrapped around it until later in life when I was an adult, and I was like, oh, this makes sense. Okay, true north, magnetic north. Okay, I get it. You know, that kind of stuff. But finally caught on. It's some people it's not easy, but it's a good skill to learn.
What do you call it when you oh, I'm trying to think and I can't think of what I want to say. When you
turned around?
Have something, no, when you can see something in front, you've got a visual in front of you and you know that if you go to that spot, then you've got your bearings straight, and then you find another
Point of
spot to
reference?
focus. Yes. Well, that's not the exact word, but
That's
yeah.
what I know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking. I mean, it's point
Yeah,
of reference.
I can't
It's
remember exactly the
yeah.
survival
You go to a
linguistics for
point where you
that.
can the farthest you can see that makes sense. Go to that spot on that bearing, and then you recalculate basically where you're going to go.
Right.
You make sure you're on the same path.
There's a
Because when
word
you're
for it, but I can't think of it
yeah,
right now.
I can't either. It's been too long. Let's see. There's just basic stuff, skills or whatever. Carry and use quality gear. So we were talking a little bit about that before, but you don't want to. I would not suggest getting a JanSport backpack. They are high quality, there's no doubt, and they used to make hiking, but there's so many more brands out there now that are for the liter size you get in these bags, they're cheaper and they're more durable than a JanSport. I don't think they sell JanSport anymore. Maybe.
I think I like the one that I got.
I actually have not pulled the trigger on that, but I've looked into that bag, Mr. Nicholas, and I kind of like it too. I do. I want to put it to test, but for the price, can't beat it.
Right now I have it in hand. It's a lot of liter, and it's got extra where if you need more, you can unzip the bottom and it drops
Yep.
down and gives you a little bit more space.
How about a watch? And I went back to a specific item because there's a reason.
Specifically
can't
a
have
wind-up watch, because if you battery dies, you're screwed.
Either a wind up or one of those solar
Yeah.
Casio, whatever they're called, watches. I mean, one that's going to recharge itself.
Do you remember? I don't know if you know when they came out with the first calculator watch.
Yes.
I remember I wanted it so bad, so my mom got me one and sent it to me. I had that thing for about 1 week, and it vanished. Couldn't find it for the life of me. It just disappeared.
It walked off.
Several years later, I was like in high school. My dad was working at a school, called himself the engineer. To me, he was a freaking janitor. And his office down in the damn boiler room where all the boilers for heating school and whatnot are. I go in his office, I sit at his desk, and what's sitting on his desk? My calculator watch. He stole it.
I told you it walked off.
I had one day my father stole my watch. I said, I could not find that watch. And he's like, well, you know, I like watch. That's no excuse to steal your son's fucking stuff, man. That's messed up. He stole lots of shit from us. That's weird. Anyways.
couple more things on this list, and we'll just open topic. We have a few minutes left before a commercial break. Faith in Christ or your preferred deity, whatever that is. But I know for us three, it would be Christ.
Mm-hmm.
Have a strong faith in your doctrine, religion, whatever, because that usually is what motivates us all in morality and drive, survival. You know, we have a reason to live. We have a reason to make the decisions we make. That's a big part of survival. Believe in something. You know what I'm saying? Even if it's your own survival, believe in it, you know. But that's not really a religion. That's not a higher power or cause than what you are, you know. And the last thing is, I've kind of already mentioned it, but involve your friends and family. Explain to them what you're doing and why. Like I've done with y'all, you know. I think I kind of started this way back when I told y'all my history with this and why I think it's important, that kind of thing. And include, y'all don't really have this problem, but for me, I do, but include your children. That kind of goes along with the friends and family thing. Include your children, get them involved early, like we were talking about earlier. That's important. You're a unit. Even if it's just you and your neighbors and you live single and you're 3-bedroom, 300,000, 100,000, $150,000 home, doesn't matter. You still have a family unit in your neighborhood. If you don't have an actual family in your house. So include those people that make sense. There's one other thing. I already mentioned affiliating yourself with like-minded survivalists or people that are like-minded. Yeah, That's pretty much it. Those are, and that doesn't even scratch the surface a whole lot more, but those are a lot of the points that are foundations to beginning your, whatever you want to call it, survivalist, prepper, adventure. And take Mary's advice too. Don't go out and spend like you may have to spend money, but don't go out and spend money until you've like evaluated what you already have and what makes sense. And then
Right.
build a plan and all that around what your deficiencies and needs are. Mary's needs medically are way different than me and Nick's. Nick's logistical needs may be different than mine. He's closer to a town than I am. Blah 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 blah. So it's every person's situation is way different than the next.
You know what else is a good
So when a
little tool to
hurricane
have on you?
comes, sorry.
That's all right. You know what another good little tool to have on you is, and I got one. The little key for those spigots that stores and gas stations have, where they don't have the handle on it. They have the little key so that people can't just take their water.
Right.
You can get those keys. You can get right on Amazon. Keep one of those on you, because if you're on the move and you need some fresh water and you come across like a gas station or store or something, you can get yourself some fresh water.
To a point.
To a point.
Yeah, I mean that water comes from somewhere, and if it's worst case scenario where utilities are shut down, then you're not going to get that water. It's not going to be pumped to you unless it's gravity fed. It depends on, like I said, it depends on the town.
Yeah,
That's a good point, though. What you just made is a good point. Know your town. Know where utilities come from. I know a lot of small towns have, and I don't know much about this, but I would assume there's a water tower that's gravity fed that does a lot of your majority of your supply, at least close to it. I don't know how that works.
Yeah,
I know
Florida
it's
sold
pumped.
theirs for $5,000. Remember?
Huh? Oh yeah.
Well, it's like where my camp is, and I want to mark it. I want to get a map set up. That's where the paper map comes in. And I want to drive around where I know stuff is, and then mark on that map, okay, this gas station's here. It has this that I could get to if I needed it. If I go to 20 minutes into town here, I know there's this, this, and this, and just mark territories of things you need to know.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. That's making a plan.
And if you're going to hunker down at camp, like if you're going to leave your residential area and go to camp, know how to get there and different ways to get there.
That's my next plan.
Which,
I want to, if it came, we were talking about it the other day again, because we were coming home from work and traffic, like it always is jammed. And I said, this is what will happen. If shit hits the fan, people want to get out of the city because it's bad, this is what's going to happen.
Yep.
And where I'm at right now that I know of, because I haven't looked real deep into it, I can't get from my house to my camp without getting on the highway to an extent. Because of the way it cuts across, I have to get on it and then jump over. And I told Lynn, there's got to be, if it means, okay, I can go down these roads so far, but then I'm kind of stuck. But if I drive through this freaking 150-acre field, there's another road over there I can hit. I'll fucking do it, so I don't have to get on that damn jammed up highway.
It's a lot to take in the planning process. But when you knock out every mile of understanding that you knock out from A to B, A home, B camp in your situation, you feel a lot more, a lot better about your options. Knowledge is power, right? I mean, that's a cliche thing, but it is. In my situation, I've got, a railroad track really close by, and a lot of times, aside from a railroad bridge, which is pretty dangerous, we've all seen that movie. It's the straightest point from A to B.
Mm-hmm.
And you can get on that thing and pretty much just follow it, and you don't really get lost. I know the track close to our house goes to certain towns that have certain either people in them or amenities, resources, whatever, and that's an alternative. It's not the best choice, but it's an alternative. So if for whatever reason, the highway that runs north and south from where I'm at to these towns in question get gridlocked, which they won't because it's rural. But anyway, it's not like where you live or Dallas or Seattle or Chicago and like that. These big freeways that could just get gridlocked. I don't really have that problem. So my situation is a lot less of a problem than what you're talking about. But there still are hurdles and issues that I would run into, either on the road or in a vehicle or walking or on a railroad track or whatever. So you just go through and you drive and you start thinking, okay, well, that's a problem. That would be an issue, blah, 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 blah. So what do you think? Another commercial break?
Yeah, let's take a commercial break. We'll be right back, y'all.
Hey! Yo! Welcome. What's going on, y'all?
I'm Nick.
And I'm Brandon.
And we have just kicked off season 4 of our podcast, Coast to Coast.
That's right. And this season, we'd like to invite those of you that are on Smule, the online karaoke app, to join us for a little fun, some good old wholesome banter, and a whole lot of music and conversation.
Throughout the season, as a Smule guest, you will also be entered to win recognition in several podcast and Smule-related categories.
Hell yeah. Some of these categories are going to be most viewed episode, funniest guest, and best vocal cover overall, just to name a few.
That's right. All you got to do is click the link below, fill out the form, hit submit, and someone will reach out to schedule a date that's best for you.
And we can't wait to have you on the show. So come on now, click that link below, fill out the form, hit submit, and let's get vocal. Dude, this is going to be fun.
Well.
Welcome back. The biggest thing that worries me, I guess to wrap up this show, but is military presence. There's been a lot of debate on various social media sites that military, and it's both arguments. It's like, okay, military, if we had I have to scenario this in order to explain what I'm saying, even though a disclaimer is that I'm not saying this is going to happen. Just saying, what if? Let's say the country shuts down for whatever reason, fill in the blank. Okay, like it shuts down. Like nothing can be bought. Nothing is getting to the stores. Everything is empty. Civil unrest starts to happen because nobody knows what's going on. Lawlessness is rampant. Blah, 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 blah. And the military steps in and tries to restore order, things like that, which is in good faith a good idea, right? If the reason that the country is shut down is malicious in nature from our government, you could have a lot of people fighting back. The government, and the military is controlled by the government. So that's the scenario. And the debate has been that I've heard or seen military personnel, either retired or currently active, on both sides of the argument. Oh, I would defend the government because they're my bosses. I follow orders or whatever. And then I've seen where I'm not going to go against the American people. My job is to protect the American people. I'm not going to follow orders, blah, 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 blah. And it's a really touchy subject when it comes to, I've never been in the military, but I've got a lot of family members that have been or currently are. Mm-hmm. And that's got to be, for those people caught in the middle, like on the fence that are military or ex-military, it's got to be a tough choice because you're trained to follow orders, but you also took an oath to defend things, people, United States citizens, Constitution, whatever. And that's the only part that is a big question mark for me. Everything else I can handle. But we maybe have the largest unofficial militia in the world with all the guns that are owned in the United States. But going up against what used to be, I don't know if it still is, but what used to be the number one military in the world, being the United States military, that's a little bit intimidating. Even though people would have the numbers, citizens would. It's one thing owning an AR-15 or a 30-30 or a 9mm Beretta, but it's another thing knowing how to use it and knowing how to strategize against anybody that may be a threat to you, including military.
Not impossible, but the military's got way better equipment.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't know much about it, but I know that just my wife working on a military base, that there's a lot of high-tech stuff there. I knew that before I even met her. You know, they have a lot of high-tech, they have a lot of ability to be able to seek out and get a mission done. And if if the American people that are fighting this quote unquote tyranny, because they were the cause of it, the government was, I mean, we'd be reduced to Pony Express and tin cans and a string to communicate. I mean, we wouldn't, I mean, that'd be the first thing they would do, knock out communication.
Well, I thought about that when you said something about cell phones and don't think about, there's a reason we're not talking about cell phones and laptops, because you might not have the power. When Hurricane Katrina hit, not too far away from where you're at.
Yep.
There were a lot of people that wanted to check on their families. Landlines were down.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Nursing homes,
yeah.
Hospitals couldn't get in touch with families, couldn't get in touch with doctors, couldn't get in touch with other nurses to, bring them in if they didn't come in voluntarily.
Oh, it was chaos. It was from start to finish. I'd say 80% chaos. There were some pockets here and there in the states that were involved, Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, that there was some organization, but for a week or two, it was just bad. I mean, we went down there to do some post cleanup, and people were still without stuff. Still hadn't heard from family members outside of the zone, the hurricane damage zone.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking to myself, really? I mean, all these people walking around, we had cell phones, but they were useless. We had them, we brought them, but they were useless. They didn't do any good. I had a little flip phone, an LG flip phone back then in 2005. I remember
Has it been that long ago?
Yeah, 2005. 2005.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then I went when Baton Rouge was flooded, that area. We went down there again to help with the post damage recovery and everything. It was the same situation. I mean, it was just a flooding, but it knocked out a lot of people and so that's a good point to make, Mary, because this isn't just about what we're talking about really isn't a temporary situation. It encompasses it, but we're talking about long term. And long term, you've got to accept that you're not going to be able to communicate with people that you know and love. You're just not. And you got to make a decision. Do I just lay down and die, or give up and just wait for whatever happens, or do I make a conscious effort to survive on my own? And for that reason alone, there's going to be a lot of people in the country, if that were ever happen, that I'd say at least a couple million that would do that very thing. They would just lay down and die.
You know how you could keep up what's going on if it became warlike? Is if there was a way to get a hold of the big ass radios that the military actually uses to communicate.
I'm not real sure they use that particular radio. I know you're talking about the big.
Yeah,
looks like a little
suitcase.
No, I think they actually use a lot more compact.
I know, I was just being funny about that, but seriously,
right.
If you had the stuff that they communicate with, if you could get a hold of something.
Well, that's the thing. I don't know. I don't really know how in depth this goes, but you remember, God, it must have been 2000. I don't even know what year it was, but it was a decade ago, maybe longer than that. The government took over the UHF frequency. The analog, all analog is military. It's government basically. It's military, police, EMS. I think mainly military, but UHF is used for that. So we all use digital. The civilian world uses digital,
right?
And if you think about it, UHF is super easy to. I'm gonna say this very weakly. I may not know my facts, but you could build a radio that could process UHF. You couldn't do the same thing with digital. It's a lot more difficult. You got to know what you're doing. You got to be a Joseph to probably do that.
You can build simple radios easy.
Right. So they took that away from the citizens of the United States. They took UHF away, and now we're left with digital, which is a lot easier to wipe out, turn off,
right?
Whatever you want to call it. I mean, we've lost. It's affected this show for me being a part of it because we've lost the cell sites around here, and we had nothing. You couldn't get a text, a call, nothing. Mm-hmm. I've had dead spots before, and I'd be able to get a text out or a phone call, maybe not, internet, but I could at least do the basic. And when it goes down here, it's gone.
Yeah, when we go to Joseph's parents' house at the river, there's nothing. Like they were saying their goodbyes one day, Joseph and Owen were, and they walked out the door, and as they were walking out the door, I was the last one left, and Joseph's stepdad said, "Hey, can you watch, your mother-in-law, while I go to the bathroom really quick?" Sure. So I'm trying to send a text message to Owen, who's in the car, to let him know I didn't pass out. I'm fine, but I'm still in here because I need to stay with Mima while Tom goes to the bathroom. Right. You can't even send a text from the house to the phone, to the car on the phone.
Mm.
So I know getting in my dad's house is like that. I don't have very good signal when I go there. In fact, if I stand on the driveway, I can get like text messages will come through, but I can't send anything out. But when you get in those situations where it's a dead zone completely, how does that make you feel? For me, it's like it takes away a freedom. You know what I mean? That we're used to and we take for granted when we have it. It's a really weird feeling.
I don't know. Today for me, I kind of wanted no devices extra, like phones and technology, because Owen and I were watching Dances with Wolves, and I don't think he's ever seen that movie all the way through before, and I wanted him to see lots of different things about that movie and understand why I appreciate lots of different aspects of that movie. I also wanted to explain to him, you don't have to kill a buffalo and just cut the tongues and skin the hides, and like you can use all the parts of an animal. There's lots of different things that you can learn or teach, even when you're just having a everyday conversation with your kids or watching a movie with your kids. And every 15 seconds his phone would go off, and I was like, you're not going to be able to pay attention to what's happening on the movie because you're multitasking. I'm watching. No, you're not. You're texting.
Yeah, that's when you, as a parent, pull the parent card and say, all right, I want the phone. Turn it off.
Exactly.
Well, it's really sad that we became so tied to them, because I remember not having that crap as kids.
Yeah.
You ain't, if you're out on the road, you're not calling nobody. You either go to their house or go home and get on your phone at home. So it's kind of weird to now have a cell phone, and if it's no signal, going, oh, son of a bitch. Like, remember, you didn't have that at one time.
Yeah.
That's
the thing.
I have multi feelings. Yeah, I have multi feelings about it. I like it. I like that I have the ability to use it. When I don't have the ability to use it, I do feel a little chained.
It's a lot. I think it's a lot easier in today's society for our generation to put it down voluntarily when we have access to it, to take a break from it. then to go to an area where we don't have access to it, I think we freak out a little bit more than in the other scenario. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's
When we
it's more
choose to
important
put
when
it
you don't have
down.
it.
Yeah, exactly. Instead of when it's not working.
And it's a crutch.
Well, it's not as easy to communicate. There ain't freaking payphones on street corners anymore and shit.
No, they're not. There's literally a payphone shells everywhere. Like the box thing is there, the wind guard or whatever you call it.
So that's part
But
of the
the phone's
problem.
gone.
There's so few of hardline phones anymore that if your cell phone is down, you're doing nothing.
Yep.
But
And if you think about it, they've got us. They've got us. The
Yeah.
world, I mean, they've got us. The way the times are now has got human beings trapped in that technological bubble. We're dependent on it.
Mhm.
So, and one day it won't be there, and I don't know what the likelihood of an alternative would even a feasible alternative would be in a situation other than Pony Express. That's why I like that movie, The Postman, with Jeremy
Yes.
Costner.
Yes.
It's a very short story in my mind. Like it's not a lot of, it wasn't one of the best ones he's done, but it had a good message in it, obviously. And when you look deep into the storyline, it kind of tells you, okay, in this situation, all they had to create a civilization again, that communication was vital. That old school of riding horses delivering mail was vital to
Mhm.
getting there.
Mhm.
So
I want to go back real quick when you're talking about basically martial law stuff happening. Because it made me think of a TikTok that we all know about, and it can be concerning. Because even though, yeah, you have your vets and stuff that would say, well, I'm sticking with the people. But not only do you have the ones who are like, well, my government's who I work for, you have some, especially the younger ones, they're like some of the cops where they get that whole power trip, right? So, like, there's that one TikTok of that young lady that's a military person, and she's talking like she's badass. If it comes down to martial law, just know that, my gun ain't only pointing at them, it's pointing at you too. Like she's bad, like, I'm in charge. That's not a good thing to have people like that.
no, it's not, and unfortunately, she has that right to make the decision. That's how she's going to conduct herself in that situation. It's just unfortunate. I got to understand. I'm not saying that a military person should defend the people. I think they should. That's my personal opinion. But it depends. It depends on that person, right? You see what I'm saying?
Well, to me, it's just like regular law enforcement. You need to keep law and order, but you don't have to do it in a criminalistic way,
Right.
right?
Have you watched that show that Farris and I talked about several, I don't know, maybe a month or more ago now? What was the name of that? Where they dropped people off and there used to be in lone wolf survivalist, and they had to work in teams.
Yeah.
Do you remember what the name of that was called?
No, I don't.
Joseph and I watched that not long ago. I rewatched it with Joseph, just because I thought he might find it interesting. And his show that he normally watches on Monday nights is gone, so freed up a little time. But
She's just slipped right in there. Say, we're gonna do this now that you're not doing this.
yeah, now that you don't have your show to watch, here, what do you think about this? And he's like, well, there's more mouths to feed. And I'm like, yeah, but there's also more people to gather and hunt. And, if they have a skill and, they bring something to the table, then it's worthwhile.
This is off topic a little bit, but that's what I don't like about those shows. Because I not that, but I mean, what I don't like about those shows is the following: the production side of it, the people behind the scenes,
Yeah,
possibly instigating ideas that pit people against each other in those scenarios. Is it likely? Sure, but the only reason why it's likely because they put these challenges in front of them. So, real quick, for those that don't know, this show, like Mary said, it's meant to take lone wolf survivalists and put them together and make them win being on a team. They have to be on a team. It could be a team of 2 or 4 or however many start. I think they started with 5, didn't they?
It was 4
Okay.
teams of 4.
Right. So you had 16 people and you had to be on a team to win it. So there's got to be at least 2 people left, right? And then you split the money or whatever. You each get the money. I can't remember how that goes, but there was a lot of backstabbing and just manipulation and all that. And they, throughout the show, they would provide a challenge that was related to surviving. I will give them that. They made it to where you had to build a raft to get to an island to get
crab traps,
right? Because I mean, they had nothing. They had to live off the land, and it could go on for a year if people would, kept it going. But it didn't seem. What did it go, like 3 weeks, maybe?
No, it didn't go long, I don't think.
Yeah, it was maybe a month at the most. And you finally had a winner.
Yeah, I think they only spent.
I mean, that's a long
20-something
time to be
days
in
out there.
Alaska, though.
Yeah.
I mean, in that situation.
Fall in Alaska is pretty cold.
Right. But if you look at that, what I found was funny is like they must have had some unmentioned rules that you couldn't do this or that, because that land was ripe for survival. I mean, it had fresh water. It had the temperatures and the rain and all that was really bad. I mean, I probably would have lasted a couple days, to be honest with you. And I've been in situations like that, but I'm not like it's hardcore Bear Gillis or whatever his name is. You know what I mean? I'm not that person, but I can be if I'm pushed to it, but I don't have to be right now. So why? I mean, I would probably be like, nope, I don't need this money. I'm gone. I'm going home. I'm not a competitor.
Well,
because
I guess
the cold and all that.
Part of the reason that I mentioned it was because choose wisely, who you decide to bring into your team of people.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And also, there was one guy on there that said he didn't believe that the competition created this side of people, the ugliness of, stealing people's sleeping bags or, damaging and destroying, looting and that kind of thing. He thought that was just the way that people already were. They either came into the competition that way or they didn't come into the competition that way. And we all know that, in a really bad scenario, sometimes it brings out the worst in people.
It does.
So I think that goes back to one of the things that you read off the list that to me is very important, which is, how you hold yourself, your values, your morals, your demeanor. Exactly. Because if you can get along with, John Deere Green that comes by, like if you don't feel attacked and he doesn't, feel attacked, then maybe you can work out some kind of a deal. Maybe things will work for you.
Yeah. You got to find a common ground and a goal that benefits all in a situation and stuff like that. And they couldn't really do that.
Well, yeah, it was a produced television show, but
yeah. It's interesting.
You can take bits and pieces from little things like that. Like today, when I was watching Dances with Wolves with Owen, I was telling him, it's kind of sad because this movie shows you the Native Americans were afraid of what would happen when the white people came. The white people had this, idea in their minds of what the Native Americans were like. You can't take a group of people and just regurgitate the information that has been fed to you by other people. Get to know them, get to understand, what they're about. Don't judge a book by its cover, or don't judge a group of people as a whole.
But also don't blindly trust either.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, exactly. But
It's
for me, there's little ways where we can pick up things if we're willing to. And those are little moments that are teachable moments if you use those moments wisely.
here.
There.
I agree.
I'll shut up now.
No, it was good. It was a good ending monologue. I liked
Yeah.
it. Wrapped up everything that we were talking about. Beans, bulls, and band-aids. So get started,
Beans,
people.
bullets, and band-aids. At least
Pick a
start processing the idea of it in your head. Cause
Yeah. What did I tell you? What was that advice I gave you, Brandon? Brandon, why did I Brandon? Brandon, you're not here. Nick is here. That's not Brandon. What did I tell you, Nick? Remember what I told you about the process?
you told
May not
me,
remember.
like, you said, make sure you get with Len, talk things through.
Yes.
Yeah.
But what I'm getting at was one of the things that I emphasized was that just start somewhere.
Yeah.
Because you said it was very overwhelming about knowing what to get, what to have, how to do this or that. Start somewhere. It don't matter if you start food storage or you plot out your plan or start addressing medical issues or talk to Lynn and you know what I'm saying? It doesn't matter where, just get going because everything is so connected that once you start going this direction, all of a sudden, well, I need to have this too. If I got food storage, how am I going to carry all this stuff if I got to leave? Right.
Yeah.
So now you're talking about logistics. So it's all connected. Just start somewhere. Start figuring it out for yourself and your family. And that's all it is. It's a plan. Make it happen.
There's nothing wrong with being prepared and not
No.
needing to be prepared.
No, you put gas in your car to last you a prescribed amount of days to go to work. I mean, you're preparing to travel. That
Exactly.
We do that every morning, every afternoon. We prepare this. We think ahead a little bit. Okay, I got to do this to get this done. Do this. I got to get a shower to go to work because I don't want people to think I'm stinking because that's just part of the job. I don't want to. You're preparing to succeed, and this is the same thing. It's just you're preparing to succeed in survival.
Right.
Good job, guys.
There's things I wish I would have, like I said earlier, I wish if there was a way for me to know we would be where we're at right now, there's things I would have done different. Certain things I would have learned a long time ago, things I had that I could be using right now that I got rid of, and now I'm like, son of a mother hole.
T-shirt. Yeah, I'm with you there, buddy. It's the same thing for me. I told you about what we did as a family, a distant family, years ago. And if I had taken my own learnings and what I've been talking about tonight and actually put them in place over the last decade, but I didn't. Life, prioritizing. You have to
life and nothing was really in front of you saying this could happen. Everybody was just so.
But you're still
I would
breathing.
like.
So you can always start right now.
Well, that's the point.
And to prepare.
It's never too late. Just do it.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's never too late. I've actually been doing some things towards that myself, but I think we're out of time.
Yeah.
If in the comments, if you've got some multi-use items that we didn't talk about, mention them in the comments. Tell us, because I want to know. I may not know about it,
or if you'd like to answer the question, are you a beans, bullets, or band-aids first? What are you?
Beans, bullets, band-aids, and do it two ways. Do it currently, what's most important, and what would be most important after the fact.
I like it. With that,
He
like,
likes it
subscribe,
broad.
comment, share, say hi to Farris. He's right over there. Enjoy his stuff. Go down, look in the description, check some things out. And we'll be with you next time.
Survive. Prepare. Later.
Some band-aids. Later, guys.